Developing today, King Charles has had enough. And despite the fact that he offered an olive branch to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle twice in the past 3 months, first, that face-to-face meeting that took place at Clarence House. Secondly, by the strategically positioned photograph at Camilla's annual Christmas event that just happened to show 2 different shots of Harry's wedding to Meghan, there is no reconciliation. Harry and Meghan are lying. Indeed, sources close to King Charles telling the Times newspaper that suggestions Charles and Harry are back in contact chatting on the phone at any point after that meeting, those suggestions, according to the Times newspaper and sources close to the King, are laughable. So Angela Levin, Prince Harry's biographer, our royal mastermind, joins me now. And I'm very heartened, Angela, to see the King, who, let's be honest, is finally starting to fight back after what has been a torrid and difficult 2 years dealing with everything to do with his health. But we've seen these dueling new developments. Firstly, good news on his health. Sure, I'm not in remission. This cancer is incurable, most likely, even though he won't say that in public. But treatment will be reduced in 2026, which should give him more opportunity to take control of his family and to be seen in public more and to do even more. So that's the first good news. But secondly, Angela, this briefing to the Times hitting back against what is quite frankly now distortion and disinformation coming from Montecito, coming from the Sussex camp, I think is very important, Angela, because it's the King saying, hold on a moment. Yes, we may have included this photograph because you will always remain part of the family, but your behaviour since that meeting in September has been reprehensible. I mean, think, Angela, they leaked the details of it. They then went back on their agreement with Charles not to keep on going into legal battles with his government. So actually, I felt quite heartened, Angela, by the King and Buckingham Palace finally putting their foot down this week and saying enough. It also shows that you can trust nothing coming from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But what do you make of it, and what is really going
on? One of the things I think I've got absolutely spot on is that Camilla decided to put 2 pictures of them on the desk nearby. And I think that is because last time they made a huge fuss. Harry sort of blew the top that he wasn't on the picture, and neither was Meghan. So you shove a picture on a table, you then say they can't say anything, that will shut them up. I don't think it's anything to do with, yes, we'd love to have them here. On the contrary, they don't particularly want someone like Harry who you can't trust, and also someone like Meghan who would behave so badly to her father. Don't forget, they're very keen on looking after women who are beaten, and this is very much for Camilla's aim, and it also equals for men. Now, you could say that what Harry is doing to his father is incredibly, Meghan is doing to her father, is incredibly cruel. So she won't want anything like that. And although she doesn't control anything of what goes in her husband's behavior, he will know that she's very upset about that. And I think that will make an important thing that happens. But I think with Charles and energy and things is very good. I actually think that the person who keeps saying, you've now got to make everything right with the monarchy is actually a bit too superior. I think King Charles has made a wonderful time of working hard while he was so ill. And I don't think anyone has the right to tell him to get on with it and to make a better thing that's going on for us. I find it very tasteless and actually not necessary. It's to make a fuss and make a noise. Here I am, better than them, telling them what to do. I don't really like that at all.
No, and it's
I
quite
think,
telling, though, isn't it, Angela, that Harry wants to present something to the world that isn't actually true. He has wanted to lie to us. And a lot of people in the mainstream media have gone with this lie, you know, especially his propaganda outfits like People magazine, that
well, if
actually
they,
after September things with Charles are good, but they're not. They're worse.
well, anybody who believes what Harry says and believes what he's done and believes that his father desperately wants him and needs him for helping him, they're all crazy. Nobody believes it. I don't believe a thing he says, because he just does it because he feels he's not getting anywhere. And so he keeps pretending that there's good things going on for him, but they're not. He's had it. He's completely had it. And also, William is the heir to the throne, not Harry. So Harry's not going to beat him. He's not going to try and make a wonderful meeting that are coming up with great ideas. It's not going to happen. It's just to put him in the front now. He didn't need to do that before, but need, like both of them, they want to be on the papers and in pictures for the television, and that's how they get going. But actually, the reality of it is completely different.
Now, Angela, we've got to talk about King Charles's announcement as well in regards to his health. Tom Sykes of the Royalist Substack says that while his recovery is great news, it's time to sort out the mess the monarchy has become. He says the king's attempt to reset the narrative around his health must be backed up by decisive action to restore discipline. And I just want to take you through this article, Angela, and then I'll get your
Can I just
response.
say, this
Please.
is exactly what I don't like. I mean, if he was the monarch here, how would he do things? I mean, he couldn't do it. It's very hard. They work all the time that they can. And I think it's very unpleasant and rude to tell him what he has to do. It's a bit like, Meghan telling her father what he's got to do. I think it's completely wrong. I don't know him, but I just think that that's not good behaviour. But it makes a good piece in the paper. That's it.
Well, let me just read you the Substack, Andrew, and then, I mean, jump in at any point, okay, when there's anything you want to pick up on. So he has written, what mattered most about King Charles's statement was not what it said about his cancer, but what it signaled about power, control, and whether he is finally ready to reassert authority over an institution that has, over the past 2 years, drifted badly off the rails. This was a strategic announcement as well as a personal health one, an attempt to take back control of a narrative that has escaped the king almost from the moment he ascended the throne. The language was careful, optimistic without being definitive, and clearly designed to close down a chapter of speculation rather than open a new one. The message was simple. Things are improving. The king is still here, and the story needs to move on. The accompanying briefing notes were almost more revealing than the statement itself. Palace aides were explicit that the king is not in remission. They stressed instead that his recovery has reached a very positive stage and that his schedule of treatment can be reduced. No one is saying the king is cured, least of all himself. He still has cancer. He is still being treated. He is still demonstrating enormous courage. Those realities have not changed. What has changed is the palace's calculation about silence. Saying nothing any longer was no longer an option. The vacuum was too destabilizing, feeding speculation not just about Charles's health, but about who is really in charge. All of this brings us to the most important point of all. If Charles is indeed stabilizing, if he is genuinely well enough to step back up as head of the family and institution, then the time for half measures is over. The monarchy over which Charles has presided has been battered on multiple fronts. The Andrew scandal continues to corrode the crown's credibility, a slow-motion disaster that has not been decisively resolved. The Harry saga has poisoned the family's internal dynamics and dragged the monarchy into endless culture war theatrics. And around the edges, discipline has visibly frayed. Nothing illustrated that more starkly than the sight of the Yorks attending a christening at a royal chapel within a royal palace. So tough words there for King Charles. Angela, how do you want to respond?
Well, I will respond in one way to say, on the other hand, he has helped 100,000 people who might have cancer to go straight away quickly if they don't feel well. I mean, you've got to take into account that this is incredibly important. He's speaking about cancer. He goes to talk to people who have cancer. And the day after he gave that speech, they couldn't take enough people to help them. And I listened to two doctors who said that, we are so grateful to him. It's wonderful. People will listen. They do listen to him, and he can change their lives. Well, I think that that's something that's very important. But if people don't think that way, then I think they're wrong. The other thing is that it's been a very difficult time. Andrew's bad behavior goes right back to his mother. And to suddenly make a change of how somebody is behaving, who doesn't listen to you and doesn't like you, which Andrew does not like his brother, and tried very hard to get to be king without and stop his mother making him king, regardless of who's heir. I think that it does take a very long time because he's got more sulky, that he's got nothing much to do. So it takes time. You can't just do these things very, very quickly with COVID and all these other things, wars, and you have to take your time to do that. So that's that. Harry has got so appalling because of the woman that he married. Now, that's not the king's fault. And William told him to be very careful, but he never spoke to him again properly in a nice way. He thought that was disgusting. But anybody really within any sense would have recognised something was very wrong to marry her. And that's still going on. So, those are two people who you can't actually change what's going on because of timing and what it actually is. It's very difficult. And you can't expect him to just throw people out. Things have to move slowly. And it's not because he's not feeling very well, it's because it's just a very difficult thing to do. Meanwhile, if he goes away to Germany or France or places like that, he's greeted with the most enormous delight that he's there. Things work out very well. He's pleasing people all around the country, to Donald Trump as well. So I think that that's a very good thing. Even if he felt tired and he wanted to go home, it was a very successful, grand eating time. And, I think that's very good. I don't think you can just decide what you think is the most important thing in this world, what he should do. And actually, the other things that gently are helping and changing things. That's me.
Angela, there was another big moment this week, and it was when GB News had to make a grovelling apology live on air to Meghan Markle's mother, Doria Ragland. Now, you'll know there's been so much speculation for so many years over that time that Doria Ragland spent away from Meghan. Tom Bower has certainly hinted at a lot, but Doria had never come out until this moment and publicly said, during that time away, I never ended up in jail. Now, this all came because Carol Malone, the GB News presenter and Daily Express columnist, had said this live on air during an episode of Britain's Newsroom. Watch.
For the father who actually brought her up, who paid for her private education while her mother was in jail, who took huge care of her. And she's not seen him in the latter years. More importantly, I mean, she's not just seen him, she's like totally snubbed him.
When was her mum in jail? When was her mum in jail?
Years ago. Do you want me to give you the precise date, time?
Well,
Because I haven't got it.
I've never heard that forever.
Years ago. Anyway, she, but this old gentleman now could be dying. Yeah. He needs to see his daughter.
Then Angela, she was dragged back to the studio on Monday to deliver what I describe as one of those hostage videos apology. What?
The programme opens with a blunt claim. King Charles has had enough, and frankly, the evidence backs it up. We're told Harry and Meghan were offered 2 olive branches in just 3 months. A private face-to-face meeting at Clarence House. A carefully staged public signal via wedding photos at Queen Camilla's Christmas event. Yet despite this, the Sussexes pushed the narrative that reconciliation was underway. According to sources close to the king speaking to the Times, those claims are not just wrong, they are laughable. This matters because it confirms something critics have said for years. The Sussex version of events routinely collapses when checked against palace reality. This is a rare and telling moment. The palace doesn't usually brief aggressively, but this time, it did. Why? Because disinformation from Montecito crossed a line. The message from the king is simple. You may be family, but your behavior since September has been unacceptable. Leaking private meetings. Breaking assurances about legal warfare against the government. Weaponizing goodwill for PR. This isn't reconciliation, it's exploitation. There's an uncomfortable truth here. King Charles improving health changes everything. With reduced treatment expected in 2026, Charles is no longer a passive figurehead. He is reasserting authority, publicly and privately. This briefing isn't just about Harry. It's about who's in charge of the monarchy. And for the first time in years, the answer is crystal clear, not Montecito. Angela Levin cuts through the sentimentality. Those wedding photos on Camilla's desk. They weren't a welcome mat. They were a defensive move. Last time, Harry exploded over being excluded. This time, the palace neutralized the complaint in advance. It wasn't affection. It was containment. The conversation turns brutal and unavoidable. Camilla's lifelong work supporting victims of abuse stands in stark contrast to Harry's treatment of his father, Meghan's treatment of hers. The implication is devastating. How can the Sussexes lecture the world on compassion while cutting off their own parents? This isn't about politics. It's about character. Angela Levin says what many now believe, Harry's version of reality is a performance. Claims of closeness. Claims of reconciliation. Claims of relevance. But none of it survives scrutiny. William is the heir. Harry is not. And pretending otherwise only deepens the humiliation. Tom Sykes' article demands discipline and decisive action from the king. Angela's response is cutting. Who elected journalists as monarchs? Charles worked through cancer. He raised awareness that saved lives. He carried the crown through chaos. The arrogance of lecturing a sick king on leadership is, frankly, grotesque.
Yes, thank you. Okay, in an episode of Britain's Newsroom on Thursday, December 4th, 2025, I stated that Thomas Markle, the Duchess of Sussex's father, brought Meghan up while her mother, Doria Ragland, was in prison. I believe this to be the case based on what I now understand to be misinformation I had seen online. I was questioned about the validity of this claim during the broadcast, and I repeated this belief, which I now understand to be false. This was a genuine error. I accept what I have now been told on behalf of Miss Ragland, that she raised her daughter and that she has never been in prison or jail. I apologise sincerely to Miss Ragland and her family for any pain my comments may have caused, and I'm happy to set the record straight.
And can I just say on behalf of GB News, because I was on the programme that day, we all wish to apologise to Miss Ragland for the error, and we are happy to correct the record.
So, Angela, a bit of a mortifying moment for GB News because it, of course, smashes their credibility on royal coverage, which is something that, as you know, I built up over many years. And if that had ever happened on my show, I would have said, well, there's no proof, that she was in jail over that period, but she did go away. And there's been suggestions that perhaps she was part of some type of cult. And obviously, I've spoken to Samantha Markle about this and Thomas Markle Jr. about this. But what did you make of the whole thing? And do you think GB News was threatened by Meghan Markle and Doria Ragland behind the scenes? Because it's hard to believe that they would issue that type of on-air apology if they hadn't been threatened.
Yeah, I mean, number one, you have to be very careful, like you said, and I know, to say something unless you absolutely are sure about it, of somebody's behavior and what they've been and all that. The other thing is that I suspect, I don't know, is that they were threatened and they would have to make a huge payment. So rather than that, this is GB News itself. They thought that if they did a huge apology, then that would save them a load of money.
Indeed. Angela, there was another odd moment this week when it emerged that Alison Hammond, now she is one of the big sort of TV presenters in the UK, host of This Morning, but she was also the woman behind the voice of that very odd video that Harry did the lip sync of on the Stephen Colbert Show. And it emerged in an interview that Alison Hammond had received messages from Meghan Markle, we believe on Instagram, after that Stephen Colbert episode went out. Now, I found this extraordinary on so many levels, of course, Angela, because this is at the time that Meghan Markle was apparently desperately trying to call around all of the hospitals in Cebu in the Philippines. Do you remember that briefing from her team? Desperately trying to get a message to her father. But at that time, she was actually more interested about getting in contact with a British television presenter. I mean, to me, I actually saw this as a great insight into what Meghan cares about and what her priorities really are. What did you think?
Well, I think that actually she does the things that she tells other people not to do, and she does it herself. So why does she want to get into this? Perfectly very nice. She want person, so she wants her to do things for her. She will sort of send a letter through to her or a message that she would then actually say to all the viewers. It's just taking advantage of someone who she thinks would be agree to what she says and what she does. However, yes, that's important to her, that there is somebody for her who will help her get her nose out of anything, instead of actually trying to genuinely help her father get well. I mean, she's not flying him back. She could have done with a plane. She didn't have to go over there. She could let a plane go over there and bring him back, but she doesn't want to. She also talked about girl guys, didn't she?
I wanted to ask you about this because, again, this was the announcement of this movie Cookie Queens. Now, certainly the timing, totally bizarre because it's like everything's going on with Thomas Markle, but then also it came on the same day that Harry and Meghan had been campaigning for social media to be banned in Australia for all children. And look, that's what she posted on her Instagram story, Angela, which is very odd to me because you see there, what is it? A whole load of young girls with their faces out on social media. So
Yeah, it's what
the messaging's so unclear. And also, by the way, Angela, they've had nothing to do with this movie. They've just bought into it. And Netflix didn't want it. But anyway, what did you make of this decision to go to Sundance?
I thought that was just to get her name in the public eye, that's all. I mean, Catherine does a lot with Girl Guides, and they love her. Oh, I must do it too. So she accepted just to pretend that she'd had something to do with it. And it's not coming out till February, I believe. So the fact that she desperately needed to do it before Christmas to get it shown is an indication that it was nothing to do with that. She just wanted to keep herself in view, and actually wipes out anything she doesn't want to do. But we've seen that so many times that if she doesn't like something, she disappears or you hear nothing for a few weeks. And then she comes out with a whole load of stuff that then she keeps her going. And that's how she thinks. And with her father, I think she felt she had to move very, very quickly to get so much out that people would be much more interested in Girl Guides than they would with her 81-year-old father who'd lost his leg.
Indeed. And Angela, perhaps the most heartwarming moment of the royal week, because it actually proves that there are some young royals, not,
Yes.
the likes of Beatrice and Eugenie or
Yes.
Harry or Meghan, but there are some young royals, Angela, who are following in the footsteps of some of the down-to-earth royal greats like Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Anne. That is Lady Louise, the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, on a packed train in the United Kingdom, where very often, Angela, we know it's impossible to get a seat. And rather than demanding she goes to first class or gets some type of special treatment as a royal, she sat on the floor. According to someone in the carriage, Angela, she sat on the floor for that entire journey. It actually really makes me like this woman. I already like that family, actually. I think Sophie and Edward do a great job. I think their daughter and son are lovely, and I think they're actually a really solid family. But this really made me respect Lady Louise, who, remember, was incredibly close, Angela, to the late Queen and the late Prince Philip. They
Yes,
would have been proud.
She used to go with the Queen to church most Sundays because they lived quite near there. And she was a very helpful, kind girl. She could see when the Queen was upset. And so she would spend time with her, talking to her, and actually make the Queen feel very, very happy. And I think she's, to want to be in the army as well, because she still wants to be part of the royal family, I think is just amazing. And as with Prince Philip, she worked with him very, very well, and she did that carriage driving, which she drove with horses, and Philip was absolutely thrilled with it. And she would do it for him, and they would have a lovely time together. So she's a very special young woman who is charming to the much older people. They make her feel good, and she makes them feel good. And she's got a very nice boyfriend who's at the same university at St Andrews in Scotland. And she doesn't mind bringing him along when there's something going on. And his name is Felix de Silva Clump. So anyway, she's very happy with him, and she seems sort of normal. Because there was no chairs, she sat on the floor and got on with her work. You could actually see she was on the bottom of no chair and stuff. And you think, what a lovely girl. She's not demanding money. She's not saying that she's given this amount of money, then she might stay, like you started this conversation at the beginning, that Meghan wanted to do something if she was paid enough. She's not been thinking about that. She's just getting on in her jeans and doing her work, and very kind.
Yeah,
and very
Angela,
kind to older people as well as people of her own age. And that's really
it's
lovely.
a good sign of a good person. And actually, she even has a broken laptop screen, Angela. So she's just like one of us. Do you know what I mean? She is just like one of us.
Yes.
Angela, thank you so much, our royal mastermind. Of course, we will speak to you next week.
Yes, Andrew is a problem. Yes, Harry is a disaster. But neither can be fixed overnight. This is monarchy, not a corporate boardroom. Decades of damage don't vanish with a press release. The idea that Charles failed because he didn't publicly purge his family during illness is absurd. Now we reach the most explosive media moment. GB News is forced into a public apology to Doria Ragland over a false claim she was jailed. On air. Humiliating. Unprecedented. The damage. Credibility shattered. The question: was legal pressure applied behind the scenes? Angela strongly suspects yes. The apology reads like a hostage script. Careful wording. Total capitulation. No challenge. Whether the claim was misinformation or not, the outcome is chilling. One legal threat appears enough to silence an entire broadcaster. That should concern everyone, regardless of where you stand on Meghan Markle. Then comes the Alison Hammond revelation. At the exact moment Meghan claimed she was desperately trying to reach her father, she was messaging a British TV presenter about a comedy sketch. That contrast tells you everything. PR over parents. Image over family. Exposure over empathy. Harry campaigns to restrict children's access to social media. Meghan posts young girls' faces online to promote a film she didn't even make. That isn't activism. That's brand contradiction. As Thomas Markle's health crisis worsens, Meghan floods the media with girl guides, Netflix tie-ins, celebrity endorsements. The aim? Drown out the uncomfortable story. It's textbook distraction. And then comes the contrast that ends the debate. Lady Louise. No entitlement. No cameras. No demands. She sits on a crowded train floor without complaint. This is royal service, not royal grievance. This program unintentionally delivers a verdict. On one side, quiet dignity, duty, restraint. On the other, PR warfare, victimhood, noise. The monarchy will survive, but not all royals will remain relevant. Now I want to hear from you. Are Harry and Meghan deliberately misleading the public, or are they victims of palace spin? Was GB News right to apologize, or did it cave under pressure? Who represents the future of the monarchy, Lady Louise or the Sussex brand? Drop your view in the comments. Like if you believe accountability matters. Subscribe for uncensored royal commentary. Because this isn't just royal drama, it's about truth, power, and who controls the narrative.